Hi y'all, brother Ethan Shaw here. I am a steel guitarist and band leader and steel guitar teacher based in Central Texas. I also host a radio show on Steel Radio called Raising the Bar. A little bit ago, I made a video that was entitled, What Lap Steel Tuning Should You Use to Start Out? And lots of y'all reached out to me to tell me how much that helped you out. And that really meant a lot to me. And I promised in that first video that I would make an 8-string version. So here it is. We're gonna not totally delve into every one of these tunings. There's so many tunings, and also there's so much theory behind these tunings. It's way too much to get into in one video. So I'm just gonna play y'all what they sound like, tell you what notes are in the tuning, and then if you're interested in more, I'll make more videos. So subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet, and please give this video a thumbs up if you get something from it. And then also, if you're interested in delving more into this stuff in depth, you can go to my website, brothershaw.com. I'm working on some instructional material that'll hopefully be up there by the time you watch this video. Also, that's where you can contact me if you're interested in private lessons. I do those also online. So, back in the 1940s, they made the transition from 6-string lap steel to multi-neck console steels. And at first they didn't have legs, but then later on they put legs on them. So they wanted these bigger tunings. They switched early on. A lot of what you heard was in open E or open A when you're listening to Bob Dunn or Leon McCall's early stuff. So what they did is they just added more notes to those tunings. So the early days of these 8-string necks, typically, most people were playing a double neck, the two tunings that they used were A6 and E13. This is the classic combination. If you are trying to be a Western swing steel guitarist, if you're trying to play that stuff that you heard all those great Bob Wills steel guitarists play, you need A6 and E13. So A6 it has a high E on the top string, and then C sharp, A, F sharp, E, C sharp, A, F sharp. What does it sound like? This is the sound. That's the classic Western swing sound. Most of what you're going to hear on those old Bob Wills recordings were played on A6 neck. And most of the Western swing guys, especially in Texas, were using A6 as their main neck. Herb Remington told me you could play almost anything on A6 neck, and he is correct. So the neck that they paired that with normally was E13. E13 also has a high E string, and then a C sharp. I have a B after that. Some people omit this. Then G sharp, F sharp, D. And then on the bottom, there's all kinds of different variations. You might have a C sharp, I have a B, you might have a G sharp, and then almost always there's this low E. So this is a really cool sound to just strum across. You'll hear this a lot when people are playing background. If you want to hear me play a ballad in this, watch my September song video. It's cool because you do have the 6 tuning on the top, but then you have all these interesting intervals down on the bottom. also, if you hear a lot of people play kind of the special effects things they started doing in the 50s, a lot of times that's going to be on the E13 neck. Like, I'm going to use a volume tone pedal for this if you're wondering. That's E13 neck. All right, so now we're going to talk about C6. And I know a lot of you were probably thinking, why is he saying you should use A6? C6 is a great tuning. It was one of the ones I recommended on my 6-string video. The standard C6 tuning also has a high E on top. And if you've noticed with these tunings, the notes are all within usually a whole step of each other. You can use the same set of strings for all of these tunings that we've been doing so far. If it has the high E on top, almost all of them, you can use the same set of strings. You can use, if you have a 1-neck 8-string steel guitar, you can try out all these different tunings with the same set of strings. C6, we have our high E, then C, A, G, E, C. That's the same as the 6-string C6 tuning. Then normally on 8-string, below that they'll have an A. Sometimes they'll have a low C after that, or a low G or E. Sometimes they'll put on a high G string. But the traditional C6 has E as the highest string. What does this sound like? It's basically the same thing as A6. So, why would you play A6 versus C6 or vice versa? The thing about A6 is it has the high fifth on the top. So when you're doing chordal playing, it makes it, you have a lot more options. On C6, you don't have that high fifth, so it limits your chordal playing. But you can put a high G on your C6. That's certainly an option. That's what Cindy Cashdollar does. Now, is there anything wrong with that? No. But some pitfalls you might run into is with that high G string, you have to use a pretty small string. On some steel guitars, that's not going to have the same output as the other strings, and it's going to sound weaker. You don't want that. Also, if it's too small and doesn't have enough tension, if you put your bar on it, if you put too much pressure, it's going to pull it out of tune. So, in my opinion, in Herb Remington's opinion, in Eddie Rivers, Noel Boggs, like all these classic Western swing steel guitarists, they like to use A6. It also has a little bit of a deeper, a little bit beefier sound. So there's nothing wrong with C6. Jerry Bird sounded killer on it, and Joaquin Murphy sounded killer using it. But I will say that Billy Hugh Lynn said that if it weren't for Jerry Bird moving to Hawaii, that all the Hawaiians would have probably kept on using A6 as their main tuning. A6 is a great tuning. I would say personally, if you have a 1-neck 8-string steel guitar, A6 would be the one that I would go with. If you have a 2-neck 8-string steel guitar, I do A6 and E13 if you're trying to play Western swing music, because that's what those guys really played. Now, there's all kinds of variations of these tunings. C6, sometimes people will tune the low C up to C sharp. That's a A7 C6 hybrid, or you'll have maybe a B flat below that. On A6, a lot of people will sub out the lowest string for a different string. I put on a reentrant D sharp string where the low F sharp string would have been. If you don't understand what that means, don't worry about it, but subscribe to this channel and you'll learn. So there's one more tuning that I want to talk to you about, and this I feel like is the last of the major tunings that people use on these 8-string steel guitars. The last one is B11. Now B11, the Western swing guys did not use this very often. This is really more of a Hawaiian tuning. But I love it. I use it a lot, and there's also something that's really cool about converting to this B11 tuning. B11 tuning, the top strings are the exact same as A6. So E, C sharp, A, F sharp. Now the next string is different. Instead of E, it's D sharp. So I'm going to tune my A6, this E string, this is my 5th string. I'm going to tune this down to D sharp. That's all you have to do to get one of the versions of B11. Take an A6 tuning, tune that string down to D sharp. That's great, because if you're on a gig and you want to play something in B11 and you have an A6 neck, do that. That's another reason that I like A6 over C6. Now you can do the same concept in C6, but this takes it to straight B11 tuning. With this one, it's a really beautiful sound, because on all of the strings except for the very top one, you have this big B9 chord. And then you have an E on the top. So then you have A6 on your top 4 strings and your bottom 3, and then you have that 9th chord in the middle. So a good example of this is Sand. Another thing that the B11 neck is really useful for is it's also an F sharp minor 6 tuning. It's the same thing. So if you're playing in minor, this is a great one for that. Anyway, I hope this helped you out. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. If you're interested in learning more about steel guitar and lessons and instructional material, go to my website, brothershaw.com. I appreciate y'all watching. Good luck on your steel guitar journey, and I'll talk to y'all later.